We zoom straight into, well, the big stories for today. And first on the chopping block, it's the third highest foreign exchange earner, raking in some $3.81 billion in 2023 for the country. But are we maximizing the full potential of this sector for the good of the nation? Well, this morning we're interacting with the Ghana Tourism Authority on how far, not they, we have come in the tourism industry and what the future looks like for Ghana as far as that is concerned. Joining us is the CEO, Akwasi Agyeman, and he's here for a conversation. Mr. Agyeman.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Oh, Benjamin.
We're doing a bit.
Pardon me?
I said we are doing a bit for God and country.
You're doing your bit for God and country. Interesting times. I believe this may be the first time I'm having an interaction with you.
On the show, yeah.
On this show, yeah. Anyway, so it's good to have you join the conversation. But let's start with the tourism industry. Where are we? What does it look like as far as Ghana's tourism is concerned? And mind you, I'll be taking you around the world because I've been in many places and seen what they do in tourism vis-a-vis what we do. But give us a picture of where we are now.
I'll say it's still work in progress, but so far so good in terms of the numbers. I see tourism as a numbers game. And so you always have to look at year-on-year growth in so many areas. Arrivals, number of licensed facilities, other sectors that are opening up within the subsector, the other subsectors that are opening up within the sector. So if you look at what we found ourselves in 2017 till now, I would say we've made a lot of good progress. But I always say that tourism, for me, is a low-hanging fruit as a country that we could maximize its potential. And so we are not there yet, but I will say that we've done a lot of great things and we've seen a lot of improvements in the sector. I mean, using some of the data that we have. For example, international arrivals, somewhere around 2017, we're doing around 800,000 a year. By the end of 2019, we hit 1.1 million. And then it dipped significantly because of COVID in 2020. But last year, we went past what we did in 2019. So that shows remarkable rebound and growth. If you take domestic tourism, around 2017, the number of people who were moving around our tourist sites locally was around 500,000. Fast forward to 2023, and the number was 1.4 million. If you take a sector like cruise tourism, I mean, time was when maybe once in every 2 years you have a cruise ship land at any of our ports, either Tema or Takoradi. But now, last year alone, we had almost 10,000 arrivals through cruise. And these are all data that is available, and that shows us that the work that we are doing in terms of marketing the destination, in terms of licensing and regulating the industry, is bearing fruits. But I feel that the potential is still out there, and there are a lot of things that we can do to get it to its full potential. A few things that I think we'll talk about as we go into the show, but tourism is a cross-sectorial industry. So whatever we are doing as tourism, as GTA, as the Ministry of Tourism, is impacted strongly by other sectors like the visa regime, roads to tourist sites, sanitation. I mean, yesterday, for example, there was a news item that later was debunked by the Ministry of Health about insurance. And I was surprised the number of people who were sending it to me.
Right.
That, oh, this will impact tourism. So now I believe that we've become part of the national conversation. People are beginning to understand that whatever happens, you can't say, oh, this is health, this is sanitation, this is roads. It has an impact on tourism. And tourism employs a lot of people. I mean, it's one sector that if you take a hotel versus a factory will employ people who will come to work at 8 and by 5 they will clock off. But for tourism, it's 24 hours. So for the one work, whether it's front desk or housekeeping, you probably will have 3 people running shifts. And so we believe that if we pay the necessary attention, and I'll say this government has paid a lot of attention, but we still have a way to go, we will be able to really get a lot of our young people employed in the sector. We'll be able to train, we'll be able to improve upon our customer service, and we'll be able to get the numbers in because it's a numbers game.
and it's good you've ended there saying that it's a numbers game. When you look at the numbers, of course, COVID-19 impacted tourism to some extent, then we rebounded and all of that. But have we done enough? When you look at the numbers, and I found it curious that you wanted to start from 2017 till now and fix it there. But over time, looking at our population vis-a-vis what we have, the umbrella rock. I mean, as for the northern belt of the country, we are woefully underutilizing the resources we have. And I'll be very honest with you. You can disagree and you can tell me why. You come down south and there are so many areas that ordinarily you see that, look, if this were in Amanone, in another part of the world, they would have easily monetized this thing very quickly. So give us the facts and the figures vis-a-vis what we could be doing better as of now.
All right, you raise a very good point, and the only reason why I started from 2017 is because that's when I became CEO.
I get it, I get it.
But I'm not saying previous people that I inherited. I took over from Gideon Awike. He had done a good job before then. Mr. Osebonsu of blessed memory, they are the ones who laid the foundation, Julius, Deborah, and Co. So
it's not even about the figures or the party. It's more about expand. I was just saying that you can expand it beyond that. But then, over time, have we done the right things?
Okay, so let me take you to an area of product improvement. I mean, one of our work, the work that we do is product development. And how do we improve upon some of these sites that we have? Over there, we have two sectors, the state actors, the state institutions that own tourist sites. And then we have non-state actors, private people who own some of these sites, communities. And so if you take, for example, state actors, you take a place like Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park. It's under the care of the state through the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, which is an agency. You have the Ghana Museums and Monuments Board, which superintends all the various forts, castles, and dungeons that we have. You have the Forestry Commission that also superintends all the various game reserves and the forest reserves that we have, like Kakum, Mole, Shai, and the rest. And so that is one aspect. Then you also have all these tourist sites, and I would say God has blessed us. Everywhere you go, there's a tourist site somewhere, an attraction somewhere. These are not necessarily under the control of government. And so what we did or have done in 2019 was to come up with a regulation that there's an LI 2393 that we passed through Parliament to say that every site and attraction has to be licensed and regulated, just as we do for hotels. So you have a hotel that is either 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. For the tourist site now, we have category A, B, C, and all that. But what were we trying to do was to try and now start engaging with communities to develop some of these sites. And so if you go to a place like Kintampo, for example, what it was when we saw it in 2017, and I remember it was a baptism of fire for me. About 3 or 4 weeks into my tenure as CEO, we had this unfortunate accident there. And when we went there, we realized that there are so many things that were going on wrong there. Safety concerns about trees that were almost rotting at the height of the falls and all that. So we came up with a communal model where we now partner with communities. And that community model is what is really seeing development in so many of our tourist sites. So we've done Kintampo, we've done Bunsu. If you go there, the Arboretum, we've turned it into an eco park through a partnership model. You go to Tafia Tome, where there is a monkey sanctuary, same community model. And so we go in with a community, and the law says it, that for every tourist site now, there has to be a governance structure where you have the chiefs playing a role, you have the assembly playing a role, and you have the tourism authority playing a role. And so through this governance structure, we are then able to, through the tourism development fund, able to go in there and say, okay, you need this, you need that, we need that. How do we resource it to be able to do? So we have a lot of products that we have improved, but there are thousands more. I mean, currently, we have contractors on site. If you go to Salaga, for example, there is a slave market and a slave wells. That is being done. We will commission. The
wells of Salaga, the ancient wells of Salaga.
Yes, that is being done. You go to Pikoro, there's a slave camp there. There's a contractor on site there. You come down to Tanoboasi, where there's a sacred grove in the Bono East region. There's a contractor there working on site. You go to Dinsha, Chichire, where there's an a place where there's a mystery fish where nobody eats them, but they've grown into, people go there through, we are developing them. So we are doing a lot of things, but we believe that it's also opening up for private sector to take interest. And so you have some of these sites that you go in there and you have a private sector partner working with the community. Out of that, we've signed about 13 MOUs with different communities. Yendi, Paga, so many places that we have signed MOUs with the communities that we are coming in to help develop. But for us, it's more of building the capacity so that these sites do not become state agencies, but rather we bring in the capacity, we help them with the governance, we help them with some resources to develop. And if you go to Kintampo, I mean, from where it was, even in 2019 till now, it's like a model site. And I wish that one day you will show the work that has gone on there. We've added on a canopy walkway, there's a zip line going on there. Even just here in Bunsu at the Eco Park, we signed an MOU with the Bureaucracy Traditional Council, and you can see clearly the sort of impact that has brought into these things. Currently, even in Accra, we have the Nationalism Park. We've signed with the National Security and the Osukolo Klote Assembly, and there's development going there at the Geese Park. So we are really improving upon it, but we cannot do it alone. All we are doing is to now bring in some structure to bear, and then these products, the private sector can see it worthy. I mean, for example, if you take a place like Kakum, it's a well-developed site, but we have engaged with private sector. There's a need for accommodation facilities. We don't want to be the ones doing it. So working with the Forestry Commission, we're looking at how do we attract people to build facilities there so that when people go, it's not a day trip. People will go there, stay in the community, spend some money.
And that's a conversation I'm about to get into when it comes to hotels, lodgings, and other things. But you mentioned something I found interesting. And this takes me way back to my studies in cultural studies and all of that from way back when. Kintampo is one of those ancient towns.
Yeah.
One of the things I have not seen done, because you would often find there have been the unearthing of relics, ancient materials used by bygone civilizations and all of that. These are things that in other parts of the world, they find them, they create museums in the area. You now have people trooping there because the area is famous for maybe you found an arrowhead or some sword or something, bowls or something that were made. That's another angle we can use because Kintampo in itself is already tourism waiting to happen. Yeah. We've not done enough with Kintampo. But I'll then ask you, since you took over, what have been the add-ons? You mentioned a number of places. One of the places I'm very happy about, the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park. I love what has been done there. But what have been the add-ons? And if I asked you, in these 7 years that you've been in office, close to 8, which one, if I asked you, point to one major change in our touristic industry, what would you say?
Oh, I wouldn't say one because that's...
No, I'm restricting...
That is oversimplifying it.
So let's say one to about 3. And I'm not talking of necessarily, we build this and we build that.
No, for example,
change, real change in the sector.
Okay, real change in the sector is even this conversation we're having. Because tourism prior to... some time back, we people felt it's entertainment, it's nothing. But we've had now it's part of the national conversation. Over the last few years, anytime the president goes to Parliament for the State of the Nation address, tourism is mentioned. If you take marketing the destination and trying to bring, Ghana is now top of mind. Recently somebody showed me a picture when they were doing these Euros, where the players were asked, which African country are you familiar with? And almost all of them would turn their attention in Ghana. To get Ghana to that level where everybody is talking about the destination, it's not something that is by chance. We've been deliberate in our marketing effort. December in GH, it's a product that we've introduced in 2019. And now, if you talk to the hoteliers, you talk to the people in the value chain, December was a lean season because a lot of our big hotels, the 5-star, upmarket hotels as we call them, 3 to 5-star, they depended a lot on business tourism, where people come and have conferences, exhibitions, workshops. And so by middle of December, everybody was shutting down because people don't do these conferences in December. It's party time. But then we came out deliberately to say, okay, let's create a brand. And we've created a brand, December in GH.
Yeah.
Last year, we endorsed almost 188 events. We started in 2019, 36 events, and this is going all over the country. If you go to Takoradi, if you go to Navrongo, people are bringing up events that we endorse, and then we support through marketing. We support in so many areas, licensing.
Apart from marketing, licensing.
I mean, sometimes we sponsor some of them and all that. So,
okay.
Yeah, so we've been very deliberate in our marketing. So I would say that is one thing. I mean, if you take the year of return, for example, in 2019, that has really positioned Ghana as the Pan-African hub. And when you're having conversations, I mean, last week, for example, Afri-Azim met in Bahamas, and Ghana was on the table. You have somebody like Chief Woman being the one anchoring the creatives there, doing a display of the Mansa world story. And so these are things that I will say, let's separate the tangibles from the intangibles. The top of mind that Ghana has created, the top of mind awareness that people are saying that, okay, this is the destination, I want to go to Ghana. And the numbers are showing, I mean, year on year. It dipped from 2019 to 2020, obviously because of COVID. But from 2020, from 300,000 in 2020 to move back to 1.148 million in 2023 tells you that something is happening. And so that marketing is one of them. And then when you talk about tourist sites, the structure that we've brought to bear in terms of regulation, I mean, and the laws, I mean, the LI is very significant, because without a proper legal framework, somebody wakes up in the morning, there's a stone that has gushed out some water, and then all of a sudden they put things around it and they say it's a waterfall, and then people start coming there. There are no security arrangements, no washrooms. And so we are now using the force of the law to make sure that every tourist site will have decent washrooms, safety concerns are well addressed, and there's a proper governance board. I mean, if you take the case of Kintampo, for example, what had happened in the past was that there was always a fight between the assembly, the youth, and the traditional council. The traditional council says the land is mine, but then the assembly says we are in charge of revenue. So when there's money coming there, they will come, they take it to the assembly. The youth say, hey, we have this thing here, we are not seeing anything. What have we done? We brought them to table through the law. So the law says assembly has to be there, traditional council has to be there, tourism has to be there, any other interested party. And we see the youth as an interested party. We see sometimes private sector developers coming in and say, we want to do that. If you take Kintampo, for example, the walkway that has been done, it's been done by a private sector operator. And they are doing a revenue share with a facility. So that's why I said I can't simplify it into one. Marketing is one of them. Product development is one of them. I mentioned cruise tourism. I mean, to get cruises, this year alone, up to now, we have 5 cruises back the docking here in our ports, in Tema and in Takoradi. Recently, there was one that even went to Elmina. And so these are things that are happening. We've engaged with the National, the Ghana Navy, and we've started to look at how we can even develop our own cruise travel on our shores. And so in August, for example, we have the journey to the center of the world. Because we say we are the center of the world, and truly we are. But the world...
Ghana is the country closest to the center
so that's
why
we claim it. But then, where is the center of the world? So on August 4th, which is a holiday, we are taking a team open to the public for people to go and see where the 00 is, so that we can say this is the place. And
if we could plot it, then what do we do with that?
Thank you.
How do we monetize it?
So we work with the travel and tour operators. We have about 250 tour operators. So we don't do the sales. We market, and then they do the sales. So that's what happens. So we go to all these fairs, exhibitions. It's a private sector, that is the tour operators who do the sales.
There are some crucial, I did promise you that I'll take you around the world, and some places that I have actually been to as well, so that we can have a fair conversation. But I'm curious, when it comes to places like Shai Hills, the potential is vast in terms of flora, fauna, and everything in between, animals, and the land, vast land to be developed. But in terms of those and hotels, lodgings, now I've been around a bit, and sometimes you have a beautiful place, but the road to the place, how to get there, is torment enough. And maybe even the excitement of going there whittles away
with
just by trying to drive to get to the place. By the time you get there, you can't do anything. You're exhausted. You have to rest. And maybe you miss out on day one. And all of these are expensive, right? In some places, we don't even have the infrastructure in place. What are you doing about that? Your engagements with private sector and all that. What are you doing?
So I think I mentioned the legal framework, very, very important, because you need a structure to be in place where people know that when I'm coming in and I'm investing, I'm protected by the law. And so that's why the LI is important. And then also the numbers. I mean, since 2019, the first report that we generated for the industry was in 2019, where we have every year we do the annual tourism reports sent to ISA, to the Statistical Service, and all those agencies. Why do we do that? We need to show the numbers because for investors, they want to see the numbers. How many people are going to Kintampo? How many people are going to Shah Hills? So if you tell me, put some money in there, I'm assured that I'm going to get my return. So that is also another one. But then also, importantly, bring tourism to the national conversation. And so I'm happy that if we take roads, for example, we've had engagements with the Ministry of Roads. They've promised that every year they will look at, 50 kilometers of potential roads to tourist sites. And so if you look at Kakum before, when I became CEO, that was one of the things that the industry was talking. Oh, Kakum is the #1 destination. The road is not good. The road has been fixed. If you go to places, there have been places that the road has been fixed. But there are other areas like Boti Falls and other places that we've engaged with the ministry to fix those roads. And I believe that as these national conversations are happening, as other sectors of the nation, roads begins to appreciate, because we've had meetings where they say, oh, but I mean, Cocoa Board is doing cocoa roads. The Ministry of Agriculture is asking for roads to bring food into the cities. So it's always like which one comes first, the chicken and egg situation. But we've also showed them that, look, if we're able to get all these roads fixed, the number of people will move around, people will spend money, and then now the economic activities will improve. And so it's a conversation that is ongoing, and I believe that I would say the glass is half full rather than half empty. We've done a lot of work, a lot of foundational work has been done that we can build on. If you take Shai, for example, there's always that dichotomy where we have the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources who have oversight through the Forestry Commission. It's a land that they want to preserve. It's a forest reserve. But then for us, it's also a tourist site and an attraction. So what do you bring in there? What do you not bring in there? How do you preserve the natural? I mean, when people talked about Kakum a few years ago that somebody had been granted a mining license, everybody was in uproar. Fine, but could we grant a hotel license to the same facility? And what sort of facility would they bring so that it does not destroy the natural environment that we want to preserve? If you go to Mole, for example, there's been that arrangement where you have the Zena Lodge. Well built, but it fits into the natural environment. So you don't feel like the forest has been degraded or is being destroyed. And so those are the things that we are trying to do.
All right. Now, viewers, I want you to stay with me with some of the points I'm about to make because they are crucial to the conversation even as we have those comparisons. So I'll take you to two places.
Okay.
Just two of them, and strategically. One is Cuba, a place I've lived in. The other is San Marino, a place I've not lived in. Now, let's start with Cuba. In 2022, more than 1.6 million international travelers visited Cuba. 2022. That is an increase of over 350% in 2021. That's for 2022. Cuba, 1.6 million people, more than we've had in quite a while, and an increase of over 350%. But here's where it gets interesting. What is the population of Cuba? 11.1 million. 11.1 million. But let me get into other details as well when it comes to Cuba. If you look at how much tourism contributes to their economy, in 2019, it contributed $12.16 billion. In 2020, 6.59. There was a sharp drop because of some shocks. 6.59 billion, so let's say 7 billion. But it rebounded in 2021 to $7.89 billion, and it's been on an increase since then. Have you got the details for Cuba? You've got the details for Cuba?
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. And this, by the way, to make it more reflective, is a country that has been under an embargo by the US since the 1950s. That is why when I lived there, you would see a lot of antique vehicles from the 50s and 60s, still operational in Cuba. Very old vehicles. The only place in the world that you would find such a collection. Oftentimes when we had to travel from one place to another, it would be these ones that we would use, from one province to another. Now I'll take you to San Marino. San Marino is the 5th smallest country in the world. In fact, their population, 33,860. Now, if you look at the size, 61 square kilometers. To break it down for you, here's what 61 square kilometers means. They are about the size of just the Accra metropolis. So not just Accra, the Accra metropolis. That's about the size of San Marino. Accra metropolis, which is 3,910 times smaller than Ghana. This country is 3,910 times smaller than Ghana. Their population of 33,860 is 915 times smaller than Ghana's, almost 1,000 times smaller than Ghana's. Then you look at the dynamic of their earnings. The last time there was a check, in, I think 2023, thereabouts, they are bringing in between 2 million and 3 million tourists every year. I don't need to state how much this is
that will translate
to their economy in San Marino. So I just want to find out from you, what is it that these countries, San Marino, tiny country, 33,000 plus population, they are bringing in almost 3 million tourists a year with the accompanying foreign exchange earnings. Cuba, 11 million, about 1/3 of our population, bringing in 2021, 7.89 billion, and it's been incremental. What are these countries getting right that we are not able to get right or harness?
All right, I wouldn't say we are not getting it right. I mean, I'll say we can do better. I mean, because like I've shown you, the data that I also have tells you that we have moved. I mean, for example, in 2021, we moved from 355,000 to 623,000. That's a jump of 76%. Last year, from 914,000 to 1.148. That's a jump of 48%, 25%. So we are improving. Maybe not at the pace that is fast enough. But I will tell you why these countries are doing better than us. One is prioritization. I mean, we are in a country that sometimes I will say we are too blessed, so we don't see what we have.
You know, you are so right with this point. Yeah. I was going to make that point. Yeah. But you go ahead, and I'll come back and confirm that specific point.
So we're focusing on gold because we have gold. We are focusing on timber because we have timber. We're focusing on bauxite. We're focusing on so many things. We don't see tourism as an industry. But recently, when the conversation started and we started putting out these numbers, I remember the first time we published our report in 2019. I mean, a lot of civil society organizations were up in arms. Hey, where are you getting this data from? I said, from the airport. So we started harnessing everybody, bringing everybody together to say, look, this is the data. The data shows that if we paid even a little attention to what we're doing. So, for example, if you're going to Cuba, the visa regime, to get a visa to go to Cuba, I mean, it's not as difficult as it is getting a visa to come to Ghana, for if you're going from the US. If you look at access, Cuba is how many hours from the US? I mean, 30 minutes, 45 from Florida, you are there. And so the numbers will come. We are 10 hours away. But this 10 hours away, we are putting impediments in the way of people. I mean, the number of people who will call, sometimes in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., I'm getting calls. There's a large group coming, but their passports are stuck at the Ghana embassy. Why do we still need people to get visas to come? Why can't we do an e-visa? Why can't we do a visa on arrival? So this is something that we've been engaged.
I thought we had been talking about such stuff.
Yeah, so
I've heard a lot of talk about it for a while.
But then that's the point that I'm raising. That there are so many sectors, there are so many players. So for example, visas are not issued by tourism. It's issued by the Ministry of Interior and Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So you need to get their buy-in. Getting that, they say you have to do stakeholder engagements, which we have been doing. This year, thankfully, that is going to happen. But I'm saying, if we had it, and I will give you an example. When we did the reciprocal visa agreement with South Africa, 2023, the whole year, the number of tourists that came from South Africa was 4,323. 4,300. As at May ending this year, just by that reciprocal agreement where they can come without going to Pretoria to go and queue for a visa, we have 7,500 already.
So there are bottlenecks we can take off.
Let's take off the bottlenecks. Let's make it easy for people to visit, people to travel, because tourism has come to a point where people are sitting down, they say, hey, they see an advert, Stoneboy is performing, I want to go. In Ghana, you can't. You need about 2 weeks, because if you are from the US, which is our number one source market, you have to apply through sending your passport, mailing it through FedEx. You need a yellow card. Yellow card alone, the yellow card, for most US states, it costs about $300. So somebody is sitting there and saying, okay, I need to travel.
Does this make sense?
Does it make sense for me to pay $300 to get a card just to travel?
Well, thankfully now the newest development, which is basically, you get the yellow card. They give the lifetime shots. Okay. So thankfully, I mean, maybe it could be a one-time. It could be a one-time thing, but it is a disincentive.
It's a disincentive because somebody is sitting there. Look, I can go to Cuba. I mean, if you are in the Bahamas, you didn't cite them. The numbers are incredible.
Indeed.
Going there. But it's 30 minutes from Florida. So somebody is sitting there. Oh, I'm bored. I have an off day. Where do I spend my weekend? Do I travel 10 hours to Ghana? And where do I get a visa? Even if there are flights. So, for example, if you look at Access, we have United and we have Delta. We used to have South African Airways. They are off. So I'm somebody who's been advocating, we need a national carrier. Why? You need it to facilitate. I mean, Dubai, sometimes we see people who send me flyers. Hey, look, 1,500 to go to Dubai for 3 days.
Emirates is doing something. Where is our national flyer to do that?
We don't have the national carrier. So Emirates would drop their flights to get people in, because they realize that when the people come in, they'll stay in the hotels. The hotels will employ. When they come in, they'll go to the restaurant, they'll eat. The restaurants will employ. When they come in, they'll pay taxes. They will go to sites. And so we need to have that mindset shift through tourism that, look, let's do it, because we have it. I mean,
okay, so I get the point you're making. You've been at post for 7 years and counting. Why have we not done it? We've had enough time. You have had enough time. We as a country have had enough time. I read the National Development Planning Commission's reports sometimes. We've thought of some of these things. Why are we not implementing them? What are we waiting for?
All right, so we've implemented some of them. Like I told you, marketing, we've improved upon that. There's all the legislation, we have it in place. There are laws that are needed. But I will say some of them have been slow, I mean, in terms of our bureaucracy, because you're dealing with other agencies who do not see the agency in some of the things. I mean, for example, we go to, when we're doing arrivals, and there are some people, celebrities who are coming who say, we do a welcome, cultural welcome, just to highlight our culture. So if for somebody like Steve Harvey is coming or Steve Wonder is coming, we will need to go and meet him with a culture trip. Why? Because by showcasing that, people will say, what is this? This is the culture of the people. I want to go there. You know, we pay to airports to do that. We as a tourism industry. So if all the agencies are not seeing the same thing, that look, let's sing from the same hymn book. Let's all understand that this is the game changer for us. Cocoa, gold, whatever it is, these are all, they are not...
And these are getting exhausted, by the way.
But look...
So are you saying the synergies are not there? The synergies, the linkages, the coming together is not really there?
It's there, but it's not to the level that...
It could be better.
Much, much better. Much, much, much better. And I believe that we will get there, because the conversations are happening. I mean, we've had incidents where Meetings have been called. The president himself has sat in with all these agencies. Look, this is where I want us to take our tourism. So I'm quite positive that we will get there. But I think we need to speed up the process of, the e-visa. I know this year is coming, but if we didn't have people to go and queue, I've been to Washington before and I see a queue, people I was with a guy, he said, sunlight by your crew. But it's good. People think that, but at the end of the day, we are the ones inviting them.
Right.
We are the ones who need the numbers. If the numbers come in here, one tourist, currently the data shows that spends about $2,900. So that $2,900 is money that is not going to government coffers, it's going to the Uber drivers, it's going to the fashion designers, it's going to the go sellers, it's going to the people on the SSNIT market and Oxford Street. That is the money that is going there.
So let me ask you, in this chain, in this nexus, they say you are as strong as your weakest link.
Yeah.
Which is the weakest link when it comes to our tourism? Some of these agencies you've mentioned, again, the sectors. Which is the weakest link that we really need to look at?
I wouldn't point to one agency, but I would say bureaucracy is our weakest link. There are too many bureaucratic hurdles in our country. I feel that we need to, if you take Parliament, every agency wants to enact new laws. But how are these being discussed as a cross-sectorial policy? So, for example, we need, yesterday's news item was quite revealing. Do we need insurance for people to come to Ghana? Yes, maybe. How do we do it such that it does not become a disincentive? Because if you leave it to somebody at National Health Insurance, they are looking at the bottom line. Okay, if we do this insurance, maybe to facilitate revenue for hospitals, for the National Health Insurance, but what will it do to arrivals? And how will that arrivals decline impact businesses in the value chain? So we need to have a cross-sectorial discussion. And I believe that bureaucracy is, for me, the bottleneck. I wouldn't say there's one agency that is impeding. Everybody is doing their bit, but I think we need to all understand and work together to improve the sector.
Let me ask you for some clarity, though. Did you say that the average tourist in Ghana spends about $2,900?
Yes, arrivals international.
$2,900. On what exactly?
Accommodation is the highest, I think about 40% or so. I don't have the data in front of me, but the figure I know. Accommodation is one of them, transportation, and then entertainment. Those are the top three areas. So entertainment could be people going to the lounges that have opened. If you go through Cantonments, Labone, Osu, you will see. It's there, it's visible. The amount of new facilities that have opened up in the last 3-4 years. If you talk to the people within the creative arts industry, the space, the gigs that they are getting through December and GH. Last year, I think Shatawale did a news story or did one of his famous broadcasts where he said he made 2 million cedis in December. One artist. But because everybody, if you have 188 events, who benefits? The sound engineers, the people who own the facilities, the people, the performers, the creative arts, the musicians, the producers, the MCs. So everybody is getting a bit of the pie. And that is revenue that is going into people's pockets, which government then gets taxes from. So I wish that money, the 2,900, comes to us, but it doesn't come to us directly. But we are happy that through the work that we are doing, people within the industry, especially within the creative arts, are also making some money.
Now, this issue that you've brought up, I'll get to the cost bit. I've shared some blunt thoughts on this before. I was just looking for the file and link it to the 2.9K. But in terms of the point I wanted to go back to, in terms of prioritization, right? We're also not making the strides in tourism because we are not prioritizing it. Like you said, cocoa, gold, and the rest. And these are finite. Look at what Galamsey has done to our cocoa. Gold is diminishing. There are projections after 2050 where we'll be. By the time Ghana is 100 years in 2057, where will our gold, be? Our oil is already diminishing. So we must look at other sectors. And that is where I agree with you. You look at a place like Cuba. The embargo was placed on them. What do? If you go to Cuba, one of the most thriving industries is tourism. Yeah. You go to their beaches, pristine. You go to certain places and the water, you can literally see many feet into the water, turquoise, clean, all of that. Look at our beaches. Look at the seafront. You get it. Hotels. I remember hotel, is it Hagua in Cienfuegos? Would actually, and as students there, we were able, at a point, you can go there, not necessarily buy too many things, some ice cream, relax at the beach, do a few things. It was beautiful. It's accessible. That is what you do when you want to boost tourism in the country. And that is what some of these countries are doing. But we've been blessed with so much, and sometimes we become stupid because of our blessings. So we have natural resources. We focus too much on these, forgetting that these things are finite. But the real thing I want to put to you is this. You say $2.9 thousand. That is a bit high. Comparatively, and here's the source. We've been looking at your own reports. In fact, just a few weeks ago, I did this. When you look at sub-foreign and domestic ratings when it comes to the cost of tourism in Ghana, you would see that you have Nigerians, and I wish I could have shared this so we would all see, but if you look at those saying Ghana is expensive, Nigerians, 27.78% are saying Ghana is expensive. Those who say it is normal, 50%. Those who say it is less expensive compared to their own country, 16.67%. And those who say it is not expensive, only 5.56%. Now Ghanaians, looking at the cost of tourism, 72.73% say it is expensive. 72.73%. Only 15.15% say it is normal, and then those who say it is less expensive, just a paltry sum, and then 9.09% saying it is not expensive. Now the British, who are even using the pound, 48.66% say Ghana is expensive to live in. 24.4% say it is normal, 20% say less expensive, and then not expensive, 8.89%. I'll wrap with the United States. 35.79% of them say Ghana is expensive. Only 37% say it is normal, less expensive, 17.89%, not expensive, 8.42%. You put together these figures and they paint a certain picture for you.
Yeah.
Where are we getting it wrong?
You know, interestingly, this is data that we compiled.
Yes. And that's why I'm telling you that I used this just a few weeks ago.
It tells you how we don't want to cover up anything. So we are openly.
You're opening it up. Which is the best way of solving a problem. If you pretend you are not sick,
thank you.
we will not get the medicine.
We know that we could do better with our rates. I mean, if you take visa on arrival, I mean, it used to be $150. During the year of return, we appealed through the ministry to Parliament and then the Ghana Immigration Service, and they decided, okay, let's give a certain discount. So people were paying $75 to come. You can get here and get a visa on arrival. The number shot up significantly. After that, we stopped it. Now we've moved the $150 to $200. That's the cost of visa on arrival in this country. If you take...
So all of these are inhibitions.
Inhibitions. So it's there. If you take your hotels, and it's for a hotelier, we meet with them, we meet the Ghana Hotels Association. If you take the upmarket hotels, we don't have enough. I mean, as a country, we have only 4 5-star hotels. And there are people who do not stay in a hotel that is less than 5-star. Some of the big names, they will never, if you tell them, this is a nice facility anywhere, they say, what's the star rating? 4, I won't stay there. So their basic is 5-star. We have only 4. And out of these 4, about... And
interestingly, one of them is at least the Labadi Beach.
Yeah, well, Labadi Beach Hotel. Marriott.
Which we want to sell our stake in. So, but that's a different conversation.
So you have these 5-star hotels.
Right.
Almost 20-30% occupied by hotels, by airlines. So all the airlines, they have their staff in the market. So we don't have enough rooms. So anytime there is a peak period.
But can Ghanaians even afford it? It's not about enough rooms. How many Ghanaians can afford the Labadi Beach Hotel?
Assuming if you go to Dubai, every kilometer, there are about 20 upmarket hotels.
True.
So if you're a hotelier, nobody tells you to reduce your price. It's a function of demand and supply.
Right.
But here, the demand is so high. So they always say, oh, we are, I mean, I remember in 2019, we had some executives from a company, I mean, one of the international companies who came here. And they said, oh, they wanted to stay in one of the hotels. And their night rate was $1,500 for standard rooms. $1,500.
$1,500 per night.
Per night.
5-star hotel.
Yes. Because of what? Because the rooms were fully booked, and so the only way you could get in was to pay above everything. So we've engaged with the hoteliers, but they also have concerns because we, for example, we regulate them. We charge normal annual fees. A typical budget hotel will pay about now 190 cedis as their license fee to GTA. But when you pay that, that is not all. You pay EPA, you pay Food and Drugs Authority, you pay the assembly. The assembly will charge you for business operating permit and then for signboard fees because you are putting a signboard that says Joy Hotel. The musical Gamro will come to charge you royalties because you're a public facility and you're using content and all that. So these are all inhibitions. These are all the things that are driving up the cost. So they will say, okay, let's take all of that. Then now you have the taxes. We have a 1% tourism levy that you have to pay. Then you have to now put on, how much percentage is the VAT now? 21 or so percent?
About 22.
22.5. All right. So all these things are things that are passed on to
the consumer.
So the consumer says, this thing is expensive. But we have made a proposal to the Ministry of Finance through our ministry that, look, let's look at a flat rate for the industry. If we said, okay, even if the flat rate is 10, because a lot of our people are also not able to do this input and output conversation. So they end up paying the 22, they don't even take out any input because sometimes they are buying food from Abu Blushi, they are buying foodstuffs from where they don't have a proper VAT system in place. So it's a conversation that I believe we need to have. And so we put out these things out so that people will start appreciating. These are the perceptions because the people have choices. For Americans who come here, I always say, look, these guys love us because they have so many options because they want to see ocean. The Caribbean is there.
I mean, one thing that is working now, some of them, for example, they do this ancestral test and some will find out, I actually have some links to Nigeria, Ghana, and all of that. And some of them just want to come here because of those Memphis Depay, the Dutch player. When these are there, but we are not tapping into them enough. So I'll just go back briefly and do this. The summary of the cost, because all of this has to do with cost. The summary of the cost narrative that you put out in the 2023 Ghana Tourism Report. Then if you add very expensive, 7.85%, too expensive, 36.13%, what are you looking at? And only 15% are saying it is less expensive and only 18% are saying it is not expensive. Look at the gap between them. Then it brings me to this point.
But then you also...
Let me just make this point.
Don't use the data as a standalone. Look at the satisfaction levels too. But the 78% say they are satisfied. So I'm not saying
the
that
satisfaction levels will not necessarily, yes, it will factor in cost. It may not factor in so much, of course. It's about the services received or the quality of where I went to. It's a value game, but you will admit that in terms of what people are getting versus the costs,
I've raised my hands.
They are a bit outrageous. And here's my proposal on the back of some of this. Before we get into, I want to find out, for example, intra-tourism in Ghana. You saw the figures. Over 70% of Ghanaians are saying, yet Ghana, how? I'm saying tourism, no? Because if you're going there...
Now 1.4 million people went out. So it indeed. So let's not look at...
But people may be willing to, I'm going out, I'll have clear access roads. If I fall down right now,
could do more.
There will be a service in terms of insurance. There will be a service to take care of me in terms of my health. I mean, there are certain stretches, if you were traveling at night or something, hoping to get there in the morning, you could be robbed. You know that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, look, there are so many things that people will take stock of and say, why do I want to put myself through all of this? I can pay just a little more, go to somewhere else, and earn practically the same.
There's no place in Ghana that I've not been to in the last 4 or 5 years. No tourist sites that I would say I don't know. I mean, about a month ago, I went through Ho to Dambai to Salaga. and we use a ferry.
So using the road all the way.
We use a ferry to cross over from Dubai. And there's a guy who is building OT Serene. So we went to OT by the shore.
Serene Hotel?
Serene. They're doing,
Is it linked to the other one?
Yeah, the Volta Serene. They're doing
Volta Serene, yeah.
OT Serene. Incredible facility that if when it's done. And these are people who have seen, I mean, what tourism, what the hospitality sector can give them. But as we drove from that place to Salaga, the road in the night,
yeah, things
like
change.
You're saying, I'm like sitting there and I'm saying,
Yeah.
if I wasn't in the position that I was, probably would I be traveling?
Would you try driving there at that time?
Yes, so I get it when we talk about these things, and I am not somebody who will cover these things up. I say it openly that look, we need to fix these roads, we need to fix some of these facilities, we need to. But even on the ferry, I started talking to people. What are you going to do? Oh, I'm visiting family. I'm going here. I have. So you can tell that people like to move.
Yeah.
If they have us.
If the means are there, they will move. And it's a cost thing. But on the cost, so I have a few more questions for you and then we can wrap on this. But if you look at the San Marino example, I'll just take you back.
I think
there's this, it would be a good place. And I think we can learn something, a little something from there. Now, they have a coin that they and put out there. I don't know, recently we've had the Ashanti, Otumfuo do his thing. There are other chiefs, Togbe Afede and others, Paramount Seas and all of that. Can we do something similar so that maybe tourists coming in can get this thing? It's like one of those souvenirs, big deal to go with. And this, no tax regime. Averagely in Europe, you would have a 20 to 25% VAT rate. We're already there as a country in Ghana. But then they have no consumption tax in San Marino. Taxes are weighing us down.
I haven't studied San Marino that much.
So today I've given you homework. I've given you an assignment.
You've given me homework. I knew about the Cuba one, but I think you've raised some very valid points. We will learn and make proposals. But I think you raise a valid point when it comes to chieftaincy institutions. Like, Menchia Museum, for example, the number of people going there, we've proposed to a lot of the traditional councils to have their own museums. I mean, some of them we have started some serious engagements. For example, if you look at
look at the Evers and this whole bit about Agokoli.
Agokoli,
and Nochie coming. I mean,
Yendi, for example, we just signed an MOU with them to see, look, what can we do to preserve some of their stories, because it's there. Sometimes you hear it but these are things that will drive people there. And also Yendi is also on the Meridian. And so it's a no-brainer that we do things. So we've engaged with some of the communities. Our regional directors are doing a fantastic job talking to some of these chiefs. I think we will get there. I'm happy that at least everywhere I go now, tourism is part of the conversation, whether it's on your platform. People are saying, look, what can we do? Everybody is saying it because Saudi, with all the oil, they are building a new facility, and I'm scared.
Is it the line?
The Neom tourism.
The line.
Yeah. So,
Neom.
Yeah. And a new, completely new city built on.
That is almost outrageous.
Outrageous. So to think about that, to look at Dubai now also building artificial forests and bringing in animals. So they are trying to capture what we have.
Look at what Rwanda is doing. Rwanda is doing tourism.
So I think we have to double up. That's all I will say. We are making the right steps, but I think we need to double up because it's a competition out there. Rwanda is paying, how much are they paying to Arsenal, PSG and Co. to just get visit to Rwanda here? We don't have that.
There's even that deal for, some people who are sent out of the UK. I've forgotten the right term. A lot of them are sent to Rwanda.
So,
and all of that comes with monetary and other benefits.
We had proposals from Tottenham, Liverpool and Co. And they came and as we sat down, the guy mentioned the figures. I chuckled and he said, why? I said, you're talking to the wrong person. We don't have those numbers, but we want to work with you. So what can we do? And the guy was very open and said, look, there are areas that we can work together. Maybe not as a full-blown partnership, but occasionally, if we have a big game, you could pay to bring in some of your people who offer you some hospitality. But I have been given an opportunity through Rwanda Tourism to see what they're doing with us now. they have a full hospitality suite. And what do? All the key tourism players in UK, they invite them to come and watch a game. So you go there, you are sitting there, and they are showing you everything about Rwanda, although you're watching an Arsenal game. You feel it, you fall in love with the country.
Yeah.
And you are the one who is deciding, because tourism consultants, as they call them, are the ones who tell their clients, go this place. Because the person has traveled to San Marino, has been to Cuba, they are looking for the next destination.
Yeah.
And if Ghana doesn't come to mind, and Rwanda comes to mind, they'll go to Rwanda.
How do you even position yourself so that the recall is there, that when they think of going to a place, they are not thinking of Bora Bora, they are not thinking of Bali, they are not thinking of the Bahamas, they are not thinking of Saint-Tropez, they are thinking of Accra, Ghana, or other parts of.
So what we have done
country.
in that sense is to form a lot of partnerships. So for example, in the US, we have a partnership with the NAACP, which is the biggest black civil rights organization. And so they have millions of followers. And once they announce that they have a partnership with Ghana, and they are doing some work here in the country, all of a sudden their members feel like, okay, there's a place in Ghana.
When you have the Stevie Wonders and the rest coming to Ghana
so they have that. We
acquiring citizenship.
We have another partnership with Howard University. Okay. They have about 40.
Known for its black population.
Black population. Yeah. So last year, for example, they declared the year of Ghana. Yeah. And so every faculty, every institution within the university was tasked to do something with Ghana. So the Apiate disaster. We have the architectural students come and work with the ministry to look at the designs, and so that's some of the things that we are doing.
Those are some of the things we have to look at.
We don't have the resources, but we are working smart.
You're working smart. Final questions. I want us to look at, so for example, when you've spoken about the proposed cost of, now, we've made mention of the proposed cost of passports, right? That has gone up. The visas are also going up. How are you working with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, regional integration, to scale back on some of these? Because in the end, they become inhibitions in terms of tourism. As for the intra-tourism, I think it may have to be a conversation for another day. And I also want you to give us some reflection on the year of return, now beyond the return, and what you make of that. If you can sneak in the bit about dollarization, I'd be happy, because all these figures, dollars, or CD equivalent. Right now, you know the rate of the dollar, right? But you address those two questions for me. Ministry of Foreign Affairs and beyond.
Okay, so Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been very cooperative, understanding in so many areas. But I think, like I always say, we can do much, much better. So for example, the issue of the visa, we are part of the committee that is working under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to have this e-visa. They are almost done. And so I know that is going to happen. If you take the issue of dollarization, it's a difficult one for me, because I see it, I feel it all the time. Not so much for the people coming, because if somebody is coming with dollars, they feel that, things, they change and they have a little money, but our operators, look, we have hotels that are importing fruits. We have hotels that are importing meat from South Africa and other places.
Oh yeah.
So
I've even forgotten. There's this popular fish that a lot of which I don't think is tuna alone. There's this one, I don't know. Yeah. The name just escapes me. A lot of it is imported. Yeah. So and I don't want to mention the hotel, but it's not their fault.
It's not their fault. So
supply issues, quality issues, so they bring it in.
If a hotel imports meat, you go to the hotel and they tell you that their burger is 150, you start, Ghana is expensive. But the thing is, it's a factor of that. So I think the dollar issue is concerning. But it is what it is, and we need to deal with it, because I believe that there are countries, I mean, if you go to the Bahamas, very, very expensive destination, but the value that they are providing is such that people come. The hotels are full. So we want to focus more on the value that we can bring to bear. How do we make sure that people understand or appreciate Ghana and they want to come to Ghana? So that is what we've been doing through the Beyond the Return. The Beyond the Return is a 10-year project. We've come out with a lot of ideas and policies that will really shape and streamline the conversation among Ghana and the East Diaspora. We also have this December in GH, which we believe that is one thing that can change the dynamics for us, because a lot of events are happening here. Capacity is being built within the sector. A lot of big named artists want to perform in Ghana. And so that is a good thing. But like I always say, the sky is the limit, and we can do better, we must do better, we must do more. But if you ask me, I would say so far so good, and it's a glass that is half full.
All right. Another conversation we're having this morning, we're done with this conversation, it's about the SSNIT hotels, Labadi Beach Hotel, and all of that. That feeds into your area. Since you are here, what do you make of that development, right before you go?
Without going into the details,
just in 30 seconds or
30
1 minute.
seconds, I believe that SSNIT, the hotels need a strategic investor. I've been there. I've been to Elmina.
Labadi Beach, per the figures we have,
No, I'm not talking about Labadi.
I'm singling them out.
No. So
they have so much in reserves. They are putting out so much in terms of
So let me
their returns.
Let's pull back. You have the Golden Beach hotels, Elmina,
Right.
La Palm,
All of them in
Busia.
there. Yeah.
If you've been there, you know the hotel is not so much the profit that you make this year. It's how you are able to plow back and invest. So from I remember we went there 2017. We had somebody from Dubai, a big name investor, who came in and said, "Look, I want to invest in La Palm." When we went in there, had the conversation with the SSNIT. They said they had already a transactional advisor working on it,
Right.
but they are bundling it. The guy said, no, I'm only interested in La Palm. So he went, the son, he went back. So I know that there's a need for that strategic investor. As to who that strategic investor is and as to what the process is, I think it's something that we'll leave it to SSNIT. But I believe that if we leave, especially Elmina, Busia, La Palm, in the state that it is, for the next 5 years, if we don't get some serious resources to recapitalize these businesses. I mean, if you go there, for example, if you go to the Adeshe Hall at La Palm,
You're right.
you go in there and see.
And of course, there's La Palm, and there's the Labadi Beach Hotel. There's the La Palm Royal, which is a different case also.
Yeah, but that's what I said.
I'm talking about the Labadi Beach.
You are talking about
the Labadi Beach alone, and we're going. But just to make this point, the Labadi Beach Hotel alone is bigger than Rock City and everything.
I said I didn't want to go
in terms of so it makes for interesting reading. One hotel, the Labadi Beach Hotel, is bigger than Rock City and its stake,
okay. So you could have a hotel
returns and everything, and they are going to subsume this bigger entity.
No, don't make it.
And that is just one out of how many.
Let me phrase it for you. Let me frame it for you. So let's say Labadi Beach wants an investor.
Right.
You could have somebody who is not a hotelier.
It is true.
Right.
Right.
So let's separate Rock City from Labadi.
But is the Labadi Beach Hotel bigger than Rock City? It is.
I don't have the details.
Well, we have some of those details, and we are telling you it is. That's just one.
No.
Out of how many hotels? 6 or so that we're going to be subsumed under them.
What yardstick are you using?
What?
What yardstick are you using?
For what?
To say this is a bigger hotel.
Oh, I'm merely even looking at revenue. I'm looking at figures. I'm looking at how much they have in store. If
that is where you get it wrong. That is where you get
an entity has. Let me make my point. If an entity has over 50 million Ghana cedis, 54 or so million Ghana cedis lying there, you can't tell me that entity is not solvent.
No, I'm not saying
even in terms of and that is just an aside. Not even the running capital. No, but I have to make my point. Okay. Not even the running capital, right? No.
You didn't.
What are the returns for Rock City?
You didn't listen to me.
Go ahead.
So if you take a hotel and say the hotel is big, you could use number of rooms.
True.
You could look at the amount of money invested. So if you are going to do evaluation, look, Rock City, even before completion, it's almost 600 rooms.
Right.
You understand? So you can't just because Rock City is an upstart.
Right.
It's not a hotel you won't break even till about year 10 for a lot of.
Anyway, that's a conversation we can have at some point.
Let's not make that comparison that Labadi Beach is bigger than Rock City. From where I sit, Labadi Beach is not bigger than Rock City.
Okay.
But you could say that Labadi Beach is making profits now. Rock City, maybe by year 10. If you go there, the facilities that are there.
Right.
By the time.
No, it's not to denigrate Rock City, but it's to say that what is the comparative and what would warrant such a move. But that's a conversation we can have some other day.
Yeah.
Akwasi Agyeman, I prepared him kakrebi at the end. I didn't want to go in there, but he's CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority, and he joined us. But it's been a good conversation.
No, I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. But I think that we have to go to San Marino one of these days and probably go to Rock City.
We should make Akwasi Agyeman is CEO of the Ghana Tourism Authority. He joined us for this all-important conversation. It's one of our biggest contributors when it comes to our GDP. Let's make the most of it. But